Around 300,000 units are expected to come on the market between now and 2028. As an investor, this could definitely seem scary. Too many units, not enough people to buy or rent, prices eventually fall, rents lower. That logic makes sense. And I 100% believe that a portion of investors will lose money, but I also believe that this was going to happen regardless for a multitude of different reasons. Every market has amazing opportunities, decent opportunities, and outright bad ideas. Dubai is no different. It's much more beneficial to look at the city not as a single market, but as a collection of sub-communities, each area with its own demand cycles, price behavior, and resilience. And then you layer on the developer. How does the market react to their supply? How is their ability to completely get rid of new supply? How do they perform on the secondary market? Because that's going to be important for liquidity later on. And finally, the product itself. What makes it unique? Are there any benefits of where the plot is located within the community? Why does the market need this project? But focusing specifically on oversupply, there are four key points to consider. The first is how many people are realistically going to absorb those units. How many people are actually moving to Dubai? Well, for that, we can look at our population growth numbers. Year over year, we've had a 6.2% growth. That's 233,000 new residents in Dubai the last year. Now, if we take the average reported household size of 4, that would imply demand for roughly 58,000 new units. Compare that to the actual number of units handed over this year and last, and it wouldn't be that crazy to say that we do have a shortage, for right now at least. The second point to consider is the people behind these developers, the multimillionaire and billionaire individuals investing in our great city. Before they can even launch a project here and start collecting money from investors, they must, one, own the land. They can't just announce a project that's on land that they do not control. Two, have the project registered with the Dubai Land Department and linked to an escrow account. And three, have a 30% stake already invested in the project, either 30% of the construction already being completed or 20% invested in the escrow and an additional 10% guaranteed by a local bank. This ensures that the developer has some skin in the game. They can't just rely on investors to fund the entire project. Dubai has been even more strict with the escrow rule the last year. You cannot market a project here in Dubai without a QR code, and you cannot get a QR code for a project that does not have an escrow account. Now, linking this back to supply, why would a savvy investor risk that kind of stake if they didn't think they'd get a good return? I say savvy investor because, well, these are people and corporations that have attained success in their field. They studied this market and they've identified a need for more real estate. I believe that they are launching projects in line with the plan set forth by the government, the Dubai 2040 agenda, and banking on this population growth to continue. We want to expand our infrastructure, double the number of hospitals and schools, more than double the land reserved for tourism activities and hotels, more than double the land for commercial and industrial activities, and overall just make Dubai what we call a 20-minute city. The idea is to have everything you need: hospitals, schools, your workplace, supermarkets. Everything is going to be within a 20-minute distance from where you live. We're building the world's largest airport for a reason. So all these launches you're seeing, everything is in line with the overall plan for the city. It's part of the bigger picture. Yeah? The third thing to consider is how many of these units are actually going to get handed over. According to my favorite website, DXB Interact, only 56% of the units scheduled for delivery last year were actually delivered, and it's a pretty similar situation this year. We're looking at 55%. Why is this happening, you ask? Well, in most cases, it's because of negotiations with contractors. The great majority of developers outsource construction, and with a market like Dubai with so much demand, the contractors hold all the power. You'll notice that most projects don't get started until 2 years after the launch. That's because of the back and forth that's happening in the background. Developers getting put on the waiting list. If I'm a contractor and I have endless clients lined up outside ready to get started, I'm going to go with whoever's paying me the most. There are only a handful of developers that do their own contracting work in-house. They're the ones that can realistically stick to their handover dates. So yeah, there might be a lot of units being announced, but when you're actually going to get the keys, that's a whole different story. The fourth and final point to consider: how much of this upcoming supply is actually desirable. I can assure you that 300,000 units are not getting fully sold out. There are developers that have gone through the entire developmental process, handed over the building, and more than half of the units are still unsold. And this is not limited to small developers. The Mac is a good example of this. Great developer, currently second in terms of sales for the year, but they do have a couple projects that do have availability several years after the project has already been handed over. Everyone has gotten the keys. There are 2,061 developers, and competition is a big thing. Competition for plots, contractors, of course, marketing agencies, buyers. Not everyone is going to prosper. There are only around 10 developers that can realistically sell all their inventory at the launch. And then there's a decent amount that can get everything sold before the handover. You're not going to see much capital appreciation if you're stuck with a developer who still has availability. How can you compete? That leads to a situation where the only way for you to liquidate would be to sell at a loss. But anyways, that is a topic for a different day. My final thoughts, if you are an investor, I would not focus too much on whether or not there's too much supply. There's always going to be opportunities. A good product will always be a good product. There were units during COVID that held up and bounced back remarkably quick. It's ultimately up to you to do your own due diligence and find someone competent to work with. You really need to ask yourself, why is this a good investment? Is it really worth this amount, and does the market agree? Is the developer reliable with a good track record? As long as you can confidently answer these questions, you have nothing to worry about. I hope you guys were able to find this video insightful. Feel free to reach out to me if there's anything that I missed, or if you have any questions, or maybe you just want to set up a meeting. This is my direct phone number on screen. I decided that I would do a series of videos, common investor concerns. This will be the first. Next up, I'll dig into the idea of whether or not prices are too high. Is a bubble forming? Is the rug pull going to happen any minute now? So yeah, feel free to subscribe and stick around for that. Thank you so much for watching. Peace.